Geno Auriemma did it again with a high-level recruit, this time on the international side. You're on the Hoops Cap.
Let's get it, let's get it. Let's get it, let's get it. Yeah. UConn, baby. Home of the champions. Let's go.
All right, welcome into the Hoops Cap Pod with your host, Mark Zanetto, my co-host on Fridays, talking women's hoops with T. Baker, also the host of our Big East women's basketball show, Built to Ball, here on the Big East Energy Network. Make sure you guys subscribe to all of our shows, but particularly if you're a women's basketball fan, you got to subscribe to Built to Ball. Make sure you put the notifications on for when T puts up his shows. It's on our channel. But you can definitely put a little notification. It'll give you an alert when he's putting out his stuff. And also, I mean, give me some love, too, because it gets CT on this show, too. So make sure you got your notifications up. I had someone email me about that and say, like, I can't find your show. I'm like, listen, there's probably a reason behind that. Like, just put the notifications on. It's not just enough to subscribe. You got to make sure you notify yourself. T, we got some really cool news about, last show that we did, we had talked about Jersey Robinson, Addison Bjorn, but Gino got himself a high-level guard named Jovana Popovic. She is a Serbian national. She's got experience at every level, youth, senior national team debuted in 2025 in Euro. Give me your thoughts on, one, the Euro route, and two, what you've heard about her game.
Yeah, well, this one kind of came out of left field for me. She wasn't on my radar actually at all. So, I was very surprised to see that news earlier this week. And I think it speaks to the recruiting strategy that Gino and his staff have, which is looking at international players as part of their recruiting pipeline. Like, these aren't players who are going to be on your ESPN Hoop Girls rankings or, the domestic, high school AAU circuit rankings. Like, these are players who, in a lot of cases, have spent their teen years dedicated to their craft. Again, it's like a player like Blanca Quinones moved away from Ecuador to go play in Italy, sort of in a boarding school. And this is another player, Jovana Popovic, who has already played, on the elite levels in Serbia. Those are pro leagues, right? Competing in those pro leagues overseas. She played with ZKK Art Basket, averaging 26.6 points per game, almost 5 rebounds, 7 assists, was named league MVP and best shooter at 17. So like, she is dominating in that particular domain where she's playing. And also she's played alongside future UConn star Olivia Vukosa. They competed together on Team World at the 2025 Nike Hoop Summit. So some chemistry there already. And just really interesting. I think, Gino has always taken a lot of pride in being an immigrant, being someone who moved to the United States with his family and made a life here. And I think he loves to create those pathways for other players and just recognizes that there's a lot of diverse talent overseas.
Yeah, I think that's, listen, you painted the very beautiful view of what that looks like. And I know there's a part of Gino that absolutely that's 100% true. The more cynical side of it is the kind of the NIL, the rev share aspect of things, where it's almost like a loophole in the system where you can bring in folks from different parts of the world and they don't really kind of, they're not eligible for the NIL. I know NIL is changing and rev share is going to be a part of things. And honestly, I'll be honest with you. As much as I've looked into all of this, I don't know if rev share is a thing for European or for world or European athletes. I'll have to get back to you on that. But I do know that, like, you can't get like an NIL deal in the States if you're from Ecuador, if you're from Canada or wherever. So in that respect, it's kind of the purest way of finding who wants to come play versus who's just in it for the exposure. So there's got to be a mixture of both, right? Don't you think? Like, there's definitely a part of him that obviously loves bringing in folks from different parts of the world. He's got the UConn. I saw a tweet looking like the United Nations, right? It's actually from the Irish delegate. We have Gandhi Malumamel. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just such a cool thing. So I love that aspect of it. But we'll go with your beautiful way of thinking about it versus my cynical way of looking at it.
Well, yeah,
And
it brings up a good. I don't actually know the answer to that either. I mean, that was the thing with, like, Aaliyah Edwards never made a cent in NIL money because she was from Canada. For rev share, like, I would assume there's something complicated with, like, student visas and payment. I don't know how that works. I'm not a lawyer or whatever, but that was kind of the issue with the NIL side of it. So that's a really good point related to rev share. And you mentioned it, like UConn looking like the United Nations. Since 2019, they almost have like a full roster of international players. They have Blanca Quinones, Gandhi Malumamel, Jana Ines Betancourt, Lou Lopez Seneschal, Juhas Nikamule, Anna Makara, Evelyn Adebayo. These are all players who, came from overseas and were recruited from overseas. So definitely a trend we're seeing. It's a trend that also I do have to shout out to University of South Florida, USF. Jose Fernandez and his coaching staff have always looked internationally. I feel like almost they were like ahead of the curve on that. So, and we know Gino and Jose are tight. So maybe, some recruiting trips together overseas, drinking some wine was there.
maybe. Yeah, I also, just a quick like Google search. Apparently, there are loopholes where European players can. There are workarounds in the NIL stuff, but it's more of kind of a hassle, and so you wonder like how prevalent that's going to be, because you're seeing an influx of both, not only on the women's game but the men's side of European players coming to the States because there's money in college athletics now. So. They're not. I don't think the 2 Euros that are on the men's side are coming over and playing for it with no money. Or there's more than that. I think there's like 4 men that are on the that have European roots, 2 that played professionally. So yeah, I mean, like, I do think it's a trend though, because we've talked about this, and I've talked about this on the show with or without you, which is Gino doesn't want divas. He doesn't want people like, you know what I mean? Like people that come in and, you don't want hero ball on the men's side. You want folks that are going to come in and love to play, to learn how to play basketball his way. And I feel like he feels when he gets international players versus American players, there's less, for lack of a better word, bullshit to deal with. Do you agree with that?
I mean, I think it's part of like his program building to not allow players like that to stay like that for long. I think immediately when you said diva, I thought of Diana Taurasi,
Me too. Yep, I know.
Came from Los Angeles, like, had that diva energy, but quickly she learned that to succeed in a UConn program, she had to change her ways. And I think what I appreciate about Gino in, his approach with international players, with all players, like what he said about Blanca Quinones after OSU the other day is like, she's like throwing the ball everywhere, had 5 turnovers. And, he's like, I don't even know what language to tell her to ask her if that was a good, pass, like, because she speaks several languages. But the other piece of it is like, he wants to, and he said something to this effect of like, his players have to meet him in the middle, right? Like he likes that energy. He likes that willingness to, play fast and, try hard, make a difference on the court, but also he's going to push back. And I think that's the sweet spot that's made UConn basketball so beautiful for decades, is that he has that ability to like bring the best out of players and highlight their strengths, but also, shave off the parts of their game that aren't for the team first.
It's almost like we do this for a living, because I'm going to show a video of someone asking him a question about specific players that one being Kaylee Heckle, who we didn't mention, and Blanca, asked what they bring to the table, and this is what Gino's response was:
aggravation, agita, as my mother would say. It's kind of fun. I'll put them in the same category. I'll put Kaylee Heckle and Blanca in the same category. 2 people that are going to come off the bench, and what they're going to do is going to surprise you and really, really open your eyes to a lot of cool things, and they're going to infuriate you because they're just incredibly active risk takers, which I think is really, really good. Don't get me wrong, because I think as the season goes on, they're going to really be a factor as they start to see when to and when not to, you know?
And I want to stop it here, because to your point about meeting me in the middle, this is such a perfect illustration. And we didn't plan this, by the way. This is just a really nice moment where you talked about his personality and how he deals with different types. Kaylee Heckle's not like Blanca personally. They're different, but he's talking about them in the same light because they do things to piss him off. They also do things to go, he goes, wow. So that's the same kind of energy you're talking about when we're talking about personalities, that diva mentality versus kind of just trying to fit in. Gino is so good at this, which is kind of talking about their strengths, but also giving the media and the fans what he's truly feeling, which is like, I mean, I'm sure that they frustrate you too, because they frustrate me. And so like that to me is what's so special about him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's also, for the longtime fans out there, it was an interesting parallel he made. And I mentioned this on my show, Built to Ball. So if you want more of these takes, again, listen to my show. But he brought up how Blanca has a bit of Svetlana in her.
Mm-hmm.
And, I remember just him talking about Svetlana Abrasimova and the early years of UConn's dynasty as just like a player who came over from Russia and, she was such an incredible talent, and we didn't see players like that coming internationally. So again, sort of ahead of the curve in that way, but she would also throw passes that went out of bounds or off people's heads, or, you know what I mean? Like she always was playing fast, but he's able to bring the best out of players by working towards their strengths and refining their strengths. And I think that's what is so beautiful about his coaching. And, we cover UConn here. We have a certain type of bias, but to just take a picture, to kind of take a step back and think about how he's done that for 40 years across different generations of young people. And he'll say like, young people today are different. And, like he made a joke, like, yeah, we run things in transition because, young people aren't like team players where we can like run set plays anymore, like he says those kind of jabs, but at the same time, he has the ability to connect with them, and that's what's so cool to watch, and why I love college sports, like it's becoming professionalized. It's, going in all these different directions is a different thing, but to see coaches be able to impact young people and watch them grow up and become better at their craft, I think that's pretty cool at the end of the day.
No, I totally agree. We're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we have a couple more videos I want you to react to of Gino from media availability, and also AZ on a recent visit from Tina Charles during practice. I want to talk about that in like 6 seconds. Coming up after this. All right, we're back on the Hoops Cap. T. Baker, myself here, Mark Zanetto. I have to show you this. This is, our friend Maggie Vanoni, that's a beat reporter in Connecticut, is kind of like cut off a little bit, but she asked the question to AZ about Tina Charles's recent visit and like what it's like with her, and then we'll get back to some of Gino's comments. Pretty interesting stuff here. Hang on.
I mean, it's always amazing when Tina comes back because she doesn't have to. So getting the chance to sometimes play with her, mostly play against her, is always super special. And we definitely are very grateful for her time and her coming back. But today she was doing some stuff with the guards at the beginning of practice, and I definitely I think at least 4 of us just got tossed. Like we're guarding the guys, and easily we're not letting them post up, and then she subs on, and we're just getting tossed about. So that was a humbling moment for practice.
She's so funny, but also I love how she's described that. They practice against the guys, but when Tina came in, they just discarded them with no problem. What is it? What do you think it means to the players? And then we'll get to Gino about Tina Charles coming back.
I mean, I think it's a testament to the program's, connectedness and history and legacy that so many players do come back. Like we see Tina Charles come back, but we also see, players like Sue Bird, Diana Taurasi, Morgan Tuck, players who just kind of go back and just the ways that they can make an impact on the program. You sent me a tweet that was that Gino brought in Tina to smoke them before their toughest non-conference game of the season. And that's awesome. And so I think it's just, Tina Charles was Connecticut Sun player, so she's around. And I just love that she makes an impact on the team, not just with her play and, you know, the way that she's gained experience on the court, but also off the court. The mentorship and guidance she can offer the players, I just think is really special. And yeah, she's not going to go easy on them at practice.
She wasn't, but then listen to what Geno said about how compassionate she is from this clip.
But, you know, she's really good at, she gets a rebound over somebody, and because either they didn't box out, they didn't go after it, and I get pissed and I say something, and she's like, it's all right. He doesn't mean it. Don't worry about it.
So to your point, she absolutely destroyed them, but at the same time, she's just like, don't worry about it. He's good. He's just being Geno.
Yeah, it's so funny to watch. I mean, when following this team, you just see like the micro interactions between coaches, and I think what that made me think of right away was just like Jamel Elliott popping up between, you know, Geno and a ref and just saying, hey, take it easier on her when she comes off the bench. Like there's that ability of his staff to balance him out, and I think it's just been funny over the years. I feel like Jamel has like taken over permanently as like ref blocker because CD just retired that role. She's like tired of stepping in. let him get in trouble at this point. But yeah, again, it speaks to the connectedness of the program. Again, Jamel was a player for Geno, and that longevity and that circularity of like, hey, he yelled at me like this, and you know, here's how I handled it, and just, you know, he wants you to be better. Like that encouraging words, I think it just balances out the program.
I couldn't agree more. We'll get to that last clip later because it's actually the funniest one about I won't even spoil it. But let's get into the UConn Michigan preview. Following the Ohio State game, Geno described this as the toughest non-conference test that he expects the teams to face, and that Michigan is the best team that they'll face by a long shot. Do you agree with that?
I don't know. I was surprised. It's hard for me to like doubt what Geno's saying. I think like, to me, I'm still circling on my calendar that Tennessee game. Like, I think
for context though, T, I think he might have meant like currently, like this is like the biggest step up. You know, it's hard to understand the context of it, I guess, but I think that's kind of what he meant, if I'm being honest.
I think, yeah. And for me, the only reason I could say I don't know is because it's November and you're not getting their best, you know, but like two teams at the same point in the season, and like Michigan's hungry. You know, they are a team that hasn't had that like signature win necessarily, and this would be a huge step. And their head coach, Kim Barnes Arico, and Geno are, you know, they go back into her Big East days of coaching at St. John's, and she has experience like breaking UConn win streaks. She did so in February 2012. Michigan, St. John's snapped UConn's win streak. I remember that game because it was like, you know, the end of a 99 game home winning streak, something crazy. But you know, he had texted Kim Barnes Arico after Michigan soundly defeated Notre Dame by 39 points, and was just like, damn, not looking forward to playing against you. Me neither. And they agreed that they should just hang out in the casino instead and not play. But I think they will be playing, and I'm excited for the matchup. I think it's a good test. I don't think UConn is going to lose this game, but I don't think that they're going to easily win either. That's kind of where I'm at with my analysis of this game.
Yeah, no, I kind of agree with you. I think it'll be interesting because this is a team, and they don't mirror Tennessee in the types of, you know, subbing actions that they do down there, but they're a very similar team in the respect that like this team scores a shit ton of points. Like, so if they get hot and they're playing well, UConn's defense really needs to, you know, step up. And I think that's going back to Geno's comments about this is the toughest team we'll play by a long shot. I think he's meaning like currently, like the teams that they played, you know, so far, no disrespect to Louisville, no disrespect to Ohio State, but he's talking about the jump in talent, right? So, and probably having to be on your best behavior, so to speak, like where you're not, all of your habits are in line, where you're kind of staying, you know, disciplined on screens, staying disciplined on who you're supposed to be guarding, like being good in defensive rotation. Like all of the frustration that I had last year when they lost Notre Dame, when, you know, Hannah Hidalgo went crazy, is basically what probably he's worried about here, you know, with how many players that can beat you with this team. You know, so I think that's probably where I am on this. I think they should win. but only because I think they're the best team in the country. But that doesn't always mean that you're going to win this game. I do think it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, I said this earlier this week. I've said it a few times. Like, the test of the field this season is how can you stop Sarah Strong? Like that's just the piece that they have. Like, that is really tough to contain, combined with all the other talent that UConn has. But it's just really tough to think about UConn being in a precarious moment in a game and Sarah Strong not stepping up and making something happen. So for me, like an interesting subplot here is that, Michigan's, I think she's a sophomore guard, I want to say. Sophomore, because she graduated with Kaylee Heckel. Syla Swords. She's someone who really steps up in big moments. They went together to high school in Long Island at Lutheran, both on McDonald's All-American team. So it'll be interesting, sort of like reunion of sorts. But for me, this team, this weekend is a good test for UConn, not only because they start with Michigan on Friday, but because they play Utah on Sunday. And I think that, Gino mentioned this too, like that day off game, like mirrors the NCAA tournament. So that's an opportunity that they're really taking advantage of to kind of see where they're at as a measuring stick at this point in the season.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see, Michigan's got a mixture of, I think most teams are like this, but when they're a top 5, top 10 team, now I guess they're 6 in the country. It's always curious to see like the roster construction, right? So they have a few transfers. They have the Patriot League Player of the Year last season in Ashley Sovankinich from Bucknell. So it's a kind of another one of those, like, obviously Caitlin Shen came over from Princeton last year and helped UConn win a national championship. So it's not about, coaches copy from each other all the time. So like, I feel like a lot of coaches are starting to really raid the mid-major world, more particularly on the women's side. So I'm curious, like, how she fares in this type of environment, playing a top-ranked UConn, because playing at Bucknell is different than playing in the Big Ten or even in the Big East with against the UConn team. So I'll be curious to see what the beginning of the game is like, because you can always kind of tell when UConn's going to struggle and when they're going to kind of run away with things, probably in the first 5 minutes of the first quarter. And even if it's close, but you can kind of be like, all right, they're kind of in control of this game. Or if they're turning the ball over a ton, if they're having a harder time on screens, getting over on people. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect yet. That's because, again, it's still November 21st. If you had to give me a prediction, do you think it's 10 points, or I'm not even going to tell you like exact score. Do you think they win by double digits, or do you think it's a single digit game?
I'm going to go with a 12-point win. UConn 12-point win. For me, again, the X factor is Sarah Strong. And I said to you pre-show, I'm not even sure as a commentator, like, what to say about her anymore, because it's just really, they always say that the best players, like, the game slows down for them. And almost when I'm watching her, I can see the game, like her moving in like Jedi fashion through a slowed down game. Like it's just really impressive to see a player like her. And it's really hard to think about a team stopping her. And that's the piece that's like, it's in the past, it's been, we have Diana, you don't, we have Stewie, you don't. I think it's like, we have Sarah Strong and you don't, and you have to figure out how to contain her. And if you do contain her, that's the challenge with this team's depth. There are so many other offensive weapons that make it a really tough team to stop. So in years past where the rotation was really tight, 7 or 8 players, like it could have been more challenging for UConn to go down early and dig their way out of that. Now it's like, all right, KK Arnold's not having her best game. Bring in Kaylee Heckel. You might not be getting the production you want from your wings, so you can bring in Blanca Quinones. Like, there's just so many options, and I think that's what makes them really run teams into the ground. And it reminds me of those really great elite teams of the past, where it was like, it was just relentless. You could match them in talent. Their starting lineup, maybe the first, like you said, the beginning of the first quarter or the first quarter, first half, but over time it just wears on you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Nothing to add there. I want to play this last clip before we get out of here and let us start our weekend early here. Gino is always just so, like, he'll be talking about something and he just makes a reference and it just makes you scratch your head and laugh at the same time. So I'm just gonna play this without commentary.
When Blanca's in, you saw the other day, how different is that when Ash or Easy are not in, or what's the difference when they're both in? So every day we're trying to get better and better at that, and we're making progress, But every once in a while, like when you're watching Apple TV and it just freezes, and you don't know how to fix it, and you got to call somebody, and they got to boot it up for you again. Every once in a while, we get that.
What?
Apple TV, they got that Apple TV deal. He had to drop it in there.
Yep.
It's funny because that's the second metaphor I've heard him use after the OSU game. He mentioned with wife Kathy in the room, he's like, I don't cook much. My wife does most of the cooking. But when it comes to things like rotations, like, a certain recipe works, right? And it's tested, it's true. And when you start to add other ingredients to it, that's when it can get a little bit off. And that's how he described the rotations, which was interesting for me, because you think, again, like, you have all these great players, but at a certain point, there's certain rotations that are going to stick because they have more experience together. So, like, it's just interesting to hear him describe those different metaphors, because with this Apple TV one, it's like, yeah, sometimes you throw a player in and it freezes and you don't know why or what to do. So, it's the man is full of metaphors. I was saying to you, like, just a joy to cover him as media because he gives us so much to work with.
I love. Do you? I mean, you're a wordsmith. I love a metaphor. I mean, that's one of my favorite things. Even growing up, like when I learned in school, like what a metaphor was, I was like, that's so cool. Like, you can like take things and compare it. That's really, that's like, I've always loved that. I used a metaphor, didn't come true, about how Dan Hurley has, and you could say the same thing about Gino, has the men playing like, have you seen the movie Weapons?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like he just puts a little, and like they're all like, oh, and like it's just like it's and when the team's like that, it's kind of very synergistic that way. So I use that, and someone commented like, oh, great weapons metaphor, and it made me feel so good.
Yeah, that's a good one. Spooky, but good one.
Oh, great movie. Not what I expected at all. So anyway, Thanksgiving's coming up. I've asked every guest or co-host their kind of top 4 or 5 foods, like what they're doing, traditional, non-traditional. What's your go-to Thanksgiving? The next week, next Thursday, it's whatever time you start eating. I think we do it like 2:30 early, feast all day. What's on T Baker's menu?
Oh, well, I think for me, it's like it might be a hot take, but I don't really love turkey, so I'm
me either. Keep going. I love it. Keep going.
Ham, mashed potatoes, stuffing, and like sort of like a corn bake that a family member of mine makes, which is like cornbread mix with corn. It's just like a sweet.
It's like a casserole.
Yeah, corn casserole. So that's my go-to. I don't like to get too far into the turkey or some of the other sides. Like, I like to keep it meat and potatoes, and some corn, and that's it for me.
You'll be happy to know I am in your corner with absolutely no turkey. There'll be no turkey in our house. We have a spiral ham that my wife loves, and I always do this because one of my sons is very particular, and I like steak anyway. So I will be getting a whole tenderloin on like a Tuesday, and we'll marinate that. So like we'll have like a beef tenderloin in the ham, and then all of the things you just mentioned. I don't know if we're gonna do corn casserole, but my wife makes a great green bean casserole that I'm super excited about. That's always my go-to. Mashed potatoes, clearly.
And lots of good hoops. Like, I think the players championship is going to be South Carolina, Duke.
It's
Texas,
feast week.
LA, it's feast week. So I'm going to be. That's on my menu. My personal menu is watching a lot of basketball.
Watching a lot of basketball, eating a lot of food, not caring about the waistline right now. We're going full on. So if you start seeing me wear a lot of sweatshirts in the offseason during this time of year, that's why. Daddy's gonna gain a few pounds over the next couple of weeks. I don't care. T, it's always great to talk to you about women's hoops and UConn hoops in particular. Tell everyone where they can find Built to Ball. I know obviously on our network, but Apple, Spotify, wherever they can find other things that you work on.
Yeah, I mean, check out Built to Ball. It's my attempt to cover the Big East Women's Basketball Conference in its full extent. There's a lot of great storylines that aren't always picked up. So just highlighting the the great basketball that's happening in the Big East. And then I write over at the 9 Basketball, formerly the Next. We've rebranded. We are the 9 Basketball. And I'll be covering tonight's game against UConn, Michigan. Usually I'm putting some stuff out on social media, so check out my coverage of tonight's game.
Awesome. He's T. Baker. I'm Mark Zanetto. We will see you next time on the Hoops Cap.
Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it.